you ever felt frustrated, overwhelmed, or stuck wasting time in admin instead of growing, leveraging, and scaling your business? Then this podcast is for you. Welcome to Delegate to Elevate, the podcast that's all about handing off what you don't need to do so you can focus on what you do best. So here's your host, Bonnie Schutz.
Oh my God, that is so cool. Oh, hi, everybody. This is Bonnie Schutz, your host of Delegate to Elevate, Get Done. I would like to welcome you today to my very first guest episode. I am bringing in today Mr. Ron Ben Joseph. He is a person that helped me delegate my mind. And I've mentioned that in a previous episode. And if you just kind of keep your mind open to the fact that delegation doesn't really need to be to a person. Delegate your mind to the pros, to the coaches, to the people that know what the hell they're talking about, right? So let me give you a little bio about Ron, who also goes by RBJ, not to be confused with RBG. RBJ is a highly accomplished executive presence coach and media trainer dedicated to helping individuals harness their unique strengths and amplify their message and presence on the grand stage. With an impressive track record spanning over 20 years. Man, I didn't know you were that old. I'm just kidding.
I know. No, it's gross. I've been around. I know.
Dude, wait till you hear my 40-year spiel.
And I wasn't even like young 20 years ago. You know what I mean? I was like middle.
Right. So Ron has worked with a diverse range of clients, including myself, like an entrepreneur, C-suite leaders, and nonprofit teams and consultants. So thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm good. I'm feeling really good today. Like, Bonnie, how are you feeling?
I am feeling excited because I've not had a guest before. And I think it's very, very apropos to have you because with your help and a couple other people, I gained the power of using my voice and being myself, throwing an F-bomb here and there, because that's me. And I want this podcast to attract my people and the people that are going to, resonate with what I say. So,
well, I tell you, that's what I love about what you said about delegating your mind. Like, when I work with people like you, I go like, you've done all the heavy lifting, you've done all the practical work to build your business, to build your style, your system, your process. And then I'm like, when you work with me, I always say it's like business class. Like you get a lie flat seat. Do you want the halibut or the steak? You just relax.
Steak,
right?
please.
Yeah, coming right up. But you are delegating your brain because it's like, okay, let me hold on to this amazing thing that you've created, and let's look at different ways that we could share it so that people can really understand what it is that you're wanting to help them with, or how you're helping them cross a threshold, or so it really is delegating your brain to someone else. I love that.
Well, I love that too because you really helped me a lot, and I think we mentioned the 20 and 40 year thing a minute ago. And really, confidence and, empowerment comes with age too. And it really did for me. 20 years ago, my ass would not be sitting in front of anybody, whether virtually on a stage or elsewhere. I would have been in the back taking notes as my little secretary that I was, And what I've said before is that it was kind of cool in my experience, having been the delegatee for so many years, that I just sat there quietly taking notes so long that when I made the pivot in my second act, when I left corporate and made that pivot, I just was surprised at how much I knew how to run a business. But what I didn't know was how to delegate. I was not good at it, admittedly, and still learning so I can empathize with my clients. So what's your experience since you went out on your own 20 years ago or whatever when you went into this speaking biz after drama and theater? That's so cool because I was like show choir girl. So tell me what your experience is with delegation, good, bad, ugly, and otherwise.
Terrifying. It's terrifying. I think like building a team and having to rely on others is something that I'm terrified of. I know that, like, I like to think that I'm reliable. Like if someone hires me, I will do whatever it takes to bring them a solution, to bring them something tangible. But the notion of delegating for me is terrifying because it's trust and it's all these things, and right. And it's clarity too, to be like, I know exactly what I need. And this is how I want. I have a family member who a few years ago up-leveled significantly, and they were in the process of getting a personal assistant, like hiring a full-time personal assistant. And then they've been through like 2 since, but not in a bad way, just like, they outgrew one, and then
Yeah.
when it was time to hire the new one at a much higher rate, like because there's more involved, we had a really good discussion about like the fear that they had originally when they didn't even know what they wanted, and they were like, well, now I know what I want, after having just kind of sneezed it, like like they just sneezed, and then they figured, right, they recurred, like they threw it all up, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I need them to really specialize on this thing because I have a lot of these needs and that. I'm being vague, but
it's that self-recognition. Like I know what I know, but am I really good at communicating it clearly to somebody else so that we're set up to be successful? I did an episode before that was called the 7 C's, not the oceans, but C's. And that's like part of it is clarity and communication. And you might set up yourself for failure if you're not super clear and you don't communicate well. So that's something I
it's
always
trial and error,
preach.
right?
Yes. And
It's
there's
ugly.
failures for sure.
Yeah, a lot of failures. Krista Grasso, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one of my really good friends and one of my coaches and mentors, when we worked together a few years ago, and she's all about scalability. Her name is Krista Grasso, and she's so succinct that like, okay, here's what you're doing really well. Here's what you should just do yourself. And she's a big preacher of like, delegate, get assistance, get a team, get all these people to support you. And I remember being very adamant at the time. I was like, no, I don't want to manage people. I don't want to do it. I can do it all by myself, And I think that's what we all learned the hard way, right? As solopreneurs, is like, you just can't. It takes a village. And like, we see it when people jump from corporate to solopreneur, where they're used to having teams and all that. All that to say, my experience is it's very challenging, and it's also very humanizing and very grounding in a way, is to be like, okay, like I can't do everything, and I'm going to be really specific about what I need right now. Can you help me? I mean, I have such a hard time asking for help. So in general, that's my answer. Right?
Many of us do. Yeah. I have about 7 people that directly support me on my team. And the one thing that, how they say doctors are the worst patients.
Yeah.
Being a former executive assistant, having someone executive assist me, I'm the worst. It's so weird, but like nobody can do that as good as I did it. So when am I going to be strong enough to give that up? I have no idea.
Oh my God. My co-parent, my ex-wife, she does my website, and I just feel so horrible every time I ask her. I'm like, Carrie, can I, do you mind? Or the other night, I have a showcase coming up in Denver, starring our good friend Megan Conter, a speaker showcase. And Megan did a lot of work on the so Carrie, my co-parent, did she did an amazing job of creating the Canva, the poster, and all the promotion stuff. And then Megan took it and kind of added stuff to it and did a great job. And
there's those delegation people that you're delegating to. I love it.
Right, but so it's a poster. It's a poster on Canva.
Wait! F-bomb.
I dropped it. And oh my goodness, I got to tell you, to this day, I still feel bad that I asked both of them for help. And
ever feel bad about delegating? Man, no, that's awesome. The good thing I see about that is like you and I have that in common. Like we have our people and we're like super networkers, right? And I've mentioned that before too, like networking and sharing resources and recommending, referring people because you want the experts in this stuff, I'm not a bookkeeper. That was one of the first things I got off my plate, right? I'm like, hell no, I can't. No, thank you. I don't like numbers. I got F's in math, but I did pass. So I don't know how I got out of it. Anyway, I digress.
I'm like, that might be an inappropriate story.
Right. Ooh. I won't tell you my nickname from high school. That'll be behind the scenes. It's a really funny story though. Oh my God. Can I? Oh, this is an explicit podcast. So it started very innocently. Oh my God, everybody's going to know my name tag. Pfft. See, I'm also menopausal, so brain fog. My nickname, not name tag, Bonnie. Boy. Anyway, and so I'm in geometry class. Funny enough, that math class, like that shitty math class that I couldn't stand. I'm in the front. It's this guy that's trying to get my attention in the back. And he's like, Bonnie. And he goes, And by the time he said that, of course I looked. And
course.
that entire class started calling me that class. And then it expanded to my entire grade. And my yearbook was boner, da, 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 and they'd write. And I had to hide my yearbook from my mother for years because I was called, which evolved, well, it shortened to bone and then Bonavitch. And different people made their own little tweaks on it. But I think it's amazing. And I still have people that call me, which is hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
And it's so innocent. Like everybody's like, God, what does she do? What's her reputation? But no, it was so innocent. I just couldn't hear him. But of course I'm going to turn around when somebody says a word like that, right?
Naturally.
But that's a great segue into the people that you delegate to or work in tandem. I like to say that, work in tandem with, have any nicknames for you instead of RBJ? Do they have any others?
Great question. That's a great question. Not as good as boner. I wish. I have so many insecurities in that department. So like,
that's hilarious.
Thank you.
Hey, you have a child. Hey, something happened.
It works.
It works. Quality over quantity. No, so I am like going around the round. This is fun. I want more guests.
I have so much. I love so I still perform. I still do comedy every so often, and as a comedian, I love small dick jokes because that's what we're talking about, right? Like,
exactly.
And I started teaching a college class recently, and I know better. And the other week, like last week, I stopped myself from being inappropriate. Like someone said something, and I was like, oh, there's an opportunity for me to say, and I was like, 2025, you cannot say anything anymore. So
QEQ.
I was like, read the room, buddy. 2025, you cannot even if it's about me, you cannot do it. So I stopped myself, and I had to tell the class, I'm like, I was just going to say something very inappropriate, and I stopped myself. That is growth, people. That is growth. I shouldn't have said that is growth because
what happens, right?
Anyway,
so no fun nicknames, huh?
No fun nicknames. No,
okay.
No, people, RBJ, hype man. Ronnie is actually, so funny story. Very few people call me Ran. Ron, like I hate that name. Ron Ben Joseph.
Ron. Gotcha.
So my real name is Ron, or like my grandfather used to call me Rani. That's it. Like
nice.
With a so my family calls me Ronnie. So I do like Ronnie actually. Like I look like more like a Rani than a Ron.
My family calls me B. Just B. But my team is so funny. So my team, I'm a little bit of a control freak, admittedly, hence still learning how to delegate, right? So I still have to have final eyes on things, but a lot of them use the whole WWBD. What would Bonnie do? And when they work together, or they'll send something to me. Will you bonify this?
Oh, I love that.
And so that's been our little shtick and the things they do. So I bonify things. I haven't brought out the boner part to my team because I don't know if that's appropriate. I know a couple of them that I have private talks. But I just want to shout out somebody you mentioned. That's Megan Contour. Yeah. So I belong, for those of you listening, I belong to a fantastic networking women's group of 6, 7, and 8. Am I saying that? 6, 7, and 8 figure businesswomen. Yeah. And Ron is the one male honorary member of the team, of the membership of the community. And so that's where I met Ron, and Megan is their CEO. So if you fit in that category, I'm sure she would love to hear from you. Megan Contour, the name of the organization is The Dames. And if you're older like me, when I hear Dames, Megan may have to explain this to me, because when I hear Dames, I always think of this weird person in my head, Dame Edna. Now, I don't know if you know what
Dame Edna. I lived in Australia. I lived in Australia for many years. And
okay, is that an Australian person? Is that an actor, a comedian? I don't even know who that is.
Dame Edna. Yeah, that was they were a comedian. Yeah, like it was a Australian comedian.
I was a little kid. Yeah. Yeah. Was he a man that dressed like a woman? Yep. Okay. I do remember things. They're in the back of the Rolodex back here.
Yeah.
I do remember things.
Dame Edna.
That's funny. And for some reason, I don't know the story of the Dames, why she called it that. But another shout out to my friend Barbara Brooks, who really helped me when I made the pivot out of corporate in my second act. And her company's called Second Act Women, another organization of women over 40, 50, 60 plus that are just struggling struggle's real. Do
Actually,
you have any great things to share about some people in your community and your resources?
I will share all day long, and I'm happy.
Love it.
I'm going to right
We'll
now,
be
but
here all day.
we'll be all day. But actually, this is a side note.
Yeah.
Second Act Women, I've heard so many amazing things about them. Like, can you connect me with them?
I sure can.
Okay.
I can. Yes. I love Second Act
That'd be
Women.
great.
Barbara will be a guest soon,
Oh.
probably in Q2, I think. So
Are you going to have our good friend Becky Claybaugh as a guest?
I am.
Okay.
I am. She was another person that I delegated my mind to.
Exactly.
I
That's
did
why I
hire.
brought her up.
I did a 90-day program with Becky. Becky's a coach from the Dames, and funny enough, Ron, I don't know if I told you the story. Becky and I have known each other since high school. Yes, we were cheerleaders together in high school. But we did not see each other for 30 some years until Second Act Women first reconnected us. She was a year older. So I was a baby. I was the JV. She was the varsity. That's why we never saw each other at reunions and things like that. So, but we met at Second Act Women. I think back in, 2019 or 2018, maybe. She didn't come back to any of their events after that. But then like 2 years later, we met again at the Dames event. And so if that's not meant to be, I don't know what is.
Kismet. Yeah.
So find your people. And, Becky's going to be great because she knows how to delegate and she knows how to get your mind set around the bugaboos that she calls them that you have about spending money. And spending money to delegate because it costs money.
Yeah. And that's a big hang up, right? That's a big hang up.
Hang up. And it's one of mine, definitely one of mine. And that's getting that person to support me directly is like, do I want to pay somebody to be me, to represent me that closely? And it is a thing. It's a mind. Oh, where's my bomb? Yeah. It really is because you're like, I can do that myself, but let it go.
To your point about clarity, right? Like if we don't have that clarity and you're spending money, that's where you don't get that result a lot of times, right? And so I work a lot with people on clarity and vision and like really like being able to use their voice to ricochet around so that people really receive the message they're trying to say. So that like even in delegation when it is, so a lot of the work I've done is like when it is about putting a program together for coaches, consultants, for therapists, like how do you articulate it in such a way that it becomes an SOP and it becomes something that people can really integrate. And if you're not there that day, someone else can pick it up, so that's something that we talk a lot about.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and I was like, have you ever had an experience where someone didn't really work out very well? They really couldn't get your voice. They weren't ever clear or they ghosted, whatever, any examples of anything like that that's happened to you?
It's funny. I've been really fortunate the past 2 years. I've had all the different stories. Like I've had all the different clients and everything. And mostly it is, I'll be honest, it's mostly guys.
Interesting.
That will have, so I 90% of my business is all women and that's the lane I want to stay in. Right. And I have a awesome client right now who's a guy. He's amazing. If I get 10 of him, it'd be awesome.
Right.
Very, very successful entrepreneur, brilliant, visionary, cool, awesome. But on the, and I've had a lot of, and I have and had a lot of corporate guys, totally great. Totally great. It's like the solopreneur guys that I've had over the years, kind, brilliant, all the things, but they'll start with me and then either they just stop in the middle and just I never see them. They just like disappear and they paid and I've never seen it.
Thanks for the money.
Yeah, like and I reach out. I'm like, can we? But it's I mostly see it in them where it's the notion of and I don't again. This is just my experience that I've seen.
Yeah. That's what I want to hear.
Right. Yep. Is that we'll get deep and then I don't see them. So it's the concept of getting help and this concept of not knowing, and the concept of not being perfect out of the gate and being strong out of the gate, which I completely relate to. I think that's what once they get into that vulnerability point, that's when it becomes really terrifying that they realize that they have to delegate and they go, I can do this by myself. I'll just do it by myself.
That's a really good point. I've had clients who come on all excited and they get started and then they leave in 2 months. It's like, wait, where'd you go? We can help. That's but it's like, I always like to use the phrase that Scott, my husband, gives me, and it's trust but verify. And that's what I do to anybody that I delegate to. I tend to be probably too trusting, admittedly. But I've learned to start to verify that trust, give them, be confident enough in myself that I'm conveying exactly what I need. There's no gray area, due
Right.
dates, whatever thing, very specific wordings or whatever they're doing for me. And then just kind of, verify a little bit, bonify. I will change verify into bonify it. To say, thanks what you're doing, but it's all about communication. And if they're going down the wrong path, catch them quicker. And, so be on it, watch it, watching what they're doing, but catch on quicker. And then ask. My favorite thing I've learned is in the last couple of years is to ask more questions. Would you agree? Like, well, how did you come to this? And did you think that maybe if we went this way, it might sound a little better? So it's all in the delivery, right?
100%. And that's delivery. I mean, that's like what you want to say and how you want to say it is a big tenet of what we talk about. And asking questions, I think, is huge. I think especially because I work with women, like the biggest thing is that feels comfortable for them is that, not coming out with assertion or with do it this way. It has to be done this way. It's, hey, I was wondering if, my co-parent, my ex-wife, like I recently had a situation with her, which is awesome. Like I'm so proud of myself. Where her and my daughter bought like these, this like, what's it called? Like a powder, like a drink powder that has all sorts of chemicals in it. And like, we'll bust each other's balls about like, like, oh, she shouldn't eat that, like to each other. No, we don't do that in front of the kids. But I found this thing in her, like I found that they bought this drink mix that has aspartame in it. It has all these horrible things. And in my heart, I wanted to be like, no, inconsistency. You call me out when I do something wrong. This is wrong. Right. So I came up, like, I was like, hey, I packed my kids like lunch and stuff. And so I was like, hey, and I do it here in her house. And like, so I was like, hey, I made a mistake. Oh my gosh, I made a mistake. I put this thing in there for her. I packed her water with the powder, and it's got all this horrible stuff in it. And she goes, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't read the thing.
Reverse psychology.
And I showed her, I'm like, yeah, see, it's got aspartame, all these horrible names that I don't understand. And she's like, oh, you can throw it out, right? That's all I wanted. All I wanted was to throw it out and not have it around. But because and she goes, oh, we used it for this specific thing that we were doing. We did like a fun, like tea project thing, whatever.
Yeah.
But had I come out guns blazing and be like, why did you do this? Which is not even a question. It's a command, right? Then she would have shut down and there would be no communication.
Absolutely.
Versus, I think the idea of like, I present it in a way that it was with curiosity and with like admitting that I did make a mistake, right? I was like, so bringing that forth, she had room then to bring me more information as to why it's there, what happened, and that it's not and she created clarity for me in the fact that it's not going to happen again, and you can throw it out, which is what I wanted. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's such a stupid thing.
That's a male version of me, because that's what I do with my team. Because I'm very much a heart-led nurturer, because that's what you have to be an assistant, like I was for so many years. But I nurture my team that way too. And I even in the written word, I read that thing back and forth, up and down 5 times, and correct the verbiage and everything to make sure it can't be misconstrued.
Yeah.
But that's another issue, and that's another communication thing that. Remember when you're delegating that words that are typed can be misconstrued.
Yeah.
Audio clips. I mentioned that before in another episode too, that audio clips are my favorite. I don't like phone calls. I don't like too many meetings.
Yeah.
But an audio clip, they get my tone. They know that I'm just lightly asking something, I'm not doing that. Why did you give her that powder and put it in her drink?
Right.
It's more like, oh yeah, I discovered that powder that you put in the drink, and it's not my favorite thing. What made you put that in there?
Right.
It's just the delivery. And if everybody learns to kind of change their tone, I even have to school my husband, but unless he listens to this episode, he might, because I delegate to him. So I, donned him with the scepter one day in my business. Says, you are my CFO, CTO. He's like, yes, I have a full-time job, but sure.
Absolutely.
So when we're in conversations, this is great for those of you that work with your spouses or your significant others. let's say, hey, I am putting on my CEO hat right now. Please talk to me as if I'm the CEO of this company. Or here's my wife hat back on. What's for dinner? That kind of thing.
Well, communication, nonverbal communication. So tone, facial expressions, that's 93, 94% of effective like communication and decoding of meaning.
Yes, that's your thing too, isn't it?
Yeah. And
That's one of the
so,
things you teach us. Yes.
right. And so like, if you are, it's not to say that you have to mask or being, like
Not be
constantly
yourself. Yeah.
scrutinizing, but there is that fine balance of being regulated, being yourself. And at the same token, going like, this was my biggest lesson in life was like, do I want to be right or do I want to get what I want? I'd rather get what I want.
Ooh, that's a good one. I might quote that.
Right.
Hey, person auditing this video, quote that for my social media, please.
Do I want to be right or do I want to get what I want? Because like,
you just opened my mind right now.
Right. That's what I learned from being married at the time. Divorced now 7 years, but like being married, I was like, I will never get what I want if I'm right.
You're right. You're right with that point. Is accurate.
And now when my ex-wife says you're right about something, I'm like, excuse, am I good here, please?
I'm what?
One more time. But presenting messages in a way that is like very clear about like, here's what I'm trying to achieve. Here's how this would benefit the situation, or here's where I need clarity, right? Like I needed clarity with that powder. I needed clarity and certainty that like, or certitude that like, it wasn't a thing like that. Like it wasn't like, oh, she can drink this, but she can't do this other thing that you wanted her to do, right? So it became ego. It became, like you told me no 5 weeks ago, and now you're saying yes to this. No, inconsistent, right? So presenting it with, I made a mistake, and presenting it like, and I kept it light. I was like, oh, I messed up.
That humbleness, that humility, like I've used that too. And it's not to be tricky or anything like that, but I will say I own up to my mistakes.
Right.
Or, oh, thanks for catching that. When it's something that where's my bomb?
Right. Because that's, you're bringing something to the party then. Right. And so again, I wasn't acting. I was like, I connected. I was like, nah, see, I really, like my daughter comes home yesterday and she's like, oh, I really like that water you made me. And I'm like, oh, cool. I didn't think and so it was a mistake. I got her hooked on this thing that they bought for something else. They bought it for
divert something. Right? I'll find something else that she likes as much.
Yeah, exactly. So then bringing forth like the acknowledgement and the accountability as a setup, and then going presenting in a way where the person that bought it can then have the space to go, here's why I bought it, which is the information I need to understand. And then collectively coming to the conclusion that I want, which is, can we throw it out? Instead of me going, we're going to throw this, like my dad would just come in screaming and be like, don't ever buy it. Why did you buy it? Why did you buy it? My dad was very abusive. Like, he's just screaming, right?
Yeah.
So this was like, in terms of like tonality, like this was also a test of tonality, because like, if I were to come in guns blazing, my co-parent, she's like, fuck off. Like
that wall's going to go up and then the horns are going to come out and
Exactly.
Amen. That's right. And
so that's great when delegating, right? Like understanding like the audience and what is the collective vision for what we want? What are we trying to achieve here? Like what is the best outcome for everyone involved?
It's that emotional intelligence too that comes along with age. I'm not saying that somebody younger than me isn't more as intelligent, but I mean, it's just, I've lifed a long time, and it's like, I honed that skill. I feel like it because I have a team and working with these different personalities and age groups, working across multi-generations. So, I mean, in conclusion, I guess as we wrap up here today, is there any one last bit of advice you might give an entrepreneur or somebody who is ready to delegate because, they've got the money, they've got the time and the commitment? What is something that you might want to tell them that, don't forget to?
I think don't forget to, as best you can, like, obviously I'm like, oh, like it's okay, like it's gonna be okay, right? Like it'll get done. But I think don't forget to cross your T's and dot your I's. Don't forget to make sure that your communication is so on point and so clear that someone with a PhD from Harvard or someone with a 5th grade education could understand it. Like where it's like, and that's not condescending. I don't mean that in a condescending or elitist way. I mean, is 1 + 1 + 2? Is that what you're trying to say? Is there a way of
over communicate?
over make sure that people understand exactly the meaning you want, and thereby like reverse engineer, go, what am I really trying to get people to understand here? What do I really need by Thursday? What do I really
Exactly.
like? Be as clear backwards and forwards as
You're
you can
speaking
be.
my love language.
Right?
My every day is just, it's all about, if I'm like, why am I not a communications major? Right? Like that's feel like all I've been doing in my entrepreneur journey. So,
because to that point, and I'll be quiet, but like to that point, the definition of communication is the process of creating and sharing meaning, and that's where you see like in action movies where they're like, okay, they're hiding, people are shooting, and they're like, we're gonna jump up and shoot on 3, 1, 2, and then it's like, I thought you said on 3. That was on 3, right? Meaning wasn't
after
shared.
3, I meant
After 3, then go, right? Like it wasn't meaning wasn't shared. And that's where, if you can, in your emails, that's where asking questions. Does that make sense? Please email me if this isn't clear, or
there's those questions.
Right. So meaning is shared so that the person, like you're clear on what you want, and the other person is able to receive it in a language that they can
It's
decode.
almost that reading back. So let me understand, if I'm the one being delegated to, that you want me to shoot after you say the word 3 or the number 3. Right. And then we all go boom after 3, after, not on, not before, but after, just like dig it out, especially in this remote world, which is what I live in, and you mostly live in, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
Not when you're out and about. Well, oh my gosh, we're such mano y mano, and I just want to thank you so much for coming on, being my very first guest. This was so much fun. Can't wait to do some more and see you soon at another event. But yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bonnie. I'm hugging you.
Oh, virtual hugs. I will have Ron in the comments. We'll share where you can find more and learn more about his business and what he provides as a service. And I hope you'll hit him up because he's awesome sauce. So thank you for joining us today on Delegate to Elevate, Get Shit Done. And I hope you'll subscribe and like and share and comment. Write me a review. Let me know how we're doing, especially after my first guest episode. I hope we entertained a little bit. I know we got a little raunchy. But hey, this is us and this is me and this is you. So you are my people. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks, Ron. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Bonnie. Thank you.
So that's it for today's episode of Delegate to Elevate. Head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week that posts a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to win a $15,000 private VIP day with Bonnie herself. Be sure to head on over to delegatetoelevatepodcast.com. That's with the number 2. And pick up a free copy of Bonnie's gift and join us on the next episode.